We welcome you to today's session. Yes, as an Institute of Technology. The module we are looking at in project planning. We want to study planning, project planning. Planning is one of the key things, as one of the often quotes that I have read in the writings of Franklin Benjamin. He says, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. So we can see that planning is always very, very critical. We don't fail. We don't plan to fail. Instead, we fail because we failed to plan. All right. So most of the times, whenever you are given a new project, what quickly comes into your mind is to just quickly start undertaking that project. Because people would want to say, okay, I don't want to waste a lot of time. I just want to do things fast. But, forgetting that if you can spend 1 minute in deep thinking and planning, it can actually save much, much more in execution. That actually will serve you in execution. So you will need to spend so much time planning, and the planning is indeed so significant, and it's very, very necessary to you. You just need it. So now, when you get given a new project, it's actually tempting to rush off and start doing the work. There are things that you are supposed to buy. There are people that you are supposed to talk to, and there is actually a huge task list to write. Okay. So now, before you get too far into doing the project, you need to step back and plan the work. Please plan the work, right? So now, what is project planning? Let's first of all try to clarify what we are talking about, okay? So you see that many people think of the project plan as the project schedule. Now, the list of tasks and dates that tell you what to do when, that schedule is actually part of your project plan, but it's not the only part of it, okay? So project planning refers to everything you do to set up your project for success. It's the process you go through to establish the steps required to define your project objectives. Actually, you need to clarify the scope of what needs to be done and develop the task list to do it. What is project planning now? So the activities in project planning are varied because you have to work out how to achieve your goals. So it'll be different. So most of the work of planning is thinking about what you need to do to get everything done, right? And putting the structure in place to make that happen. What is project planning? So by structure, we mean the processes and the governance to keep everything running smoothly, okay? Now, the things like the change management processes, the budgeting process, how you are going to sign off the deliverable when the time comes, what quality measures are important, and things like that, we will cover in more detail, especially later now. The end result of it all is a project plan. Now, what is project planning? Let me give you a pro tip. Remember always that project managers don't plan to fail. They simply fail to plan. You've gotten this one, right? Project managers don't plan to fail. Instead, they simply fail to plan. Why you need a project plan? The project planning first comes as the first, okay, thing it comes actually at the start of the project. It's after the initiation phase where all you have really done is got approved to go ahead and put the basics in place, right? And before delivering phase where you actually do the work. So we plan at the beginning to save actually time, all right? So a good plan means that you don't have to worry about whether those people are going to be available on the right dates, right? Or because you have planned to do to be with them, or let's say, for example, you don't have to worry actually about how to pay those invoices, especially when you have planned, right? So because if you have planned your financial processes, then there is no need of worrying about how to clear and pay for the invoices. So you don't have to worry about whether everyone agrees on what the quality outcomes looks like, because you have already planned what quality measures you are going to use, okay? So why do you need a project plan? It sets out the processes that everyone is expected to follow. So it avoids a lot of headaches later, because it's just about following. So for example, if you specify that estimates are going to be worked out by subject matter experts based on their judgment, and and that's approved. Later, no one can complain that they wanted you to use a different estimate technique, because they have known the deal since the start, right? So planning streamlines the doing. Why do you need a project plan? Project plans are also really help for monitoring progress, right? You can go back to them and check what you said you were going to do and how, comparing it to what you are actually doing. And that's how they work, right? And actually, this gives you a good reality check, and it does enable you to change course if you need to bring the project back on track. How long does project planning take, right? It's a hard answer, right? Because it's going to take longer to plan a moon landing than building an app. So the best way to estimate how long your project planning phase will take is to look at similar projects that have been planned before and see how long they took to plan them. Talk to the project managers as well if you can, because they will have a view on whether that length of time was enough or not enough. So it is actually usually easy to see how long other projects took if you have a project management tool that achieves or that achieves your old project schedules and makes the data available to everyone who needs it, right? So you can then search for similar projects and start their schedules, usually in detail. And that is what usually happens. Are there any tools that we need for project planning? Do we have any tools? Right. So project planning is all about working out what to do, how you're going to do it. So you need to get a lot of people involved usually. So there's several good tools and techniques that we use, especially to get information from other people. It would include the workshops. Okay, you can have the, let's say, one-on-one meetings or the interviews with people. You ask questions and they are going to tell you. They'll give you the data needed. You can conduct surveys or customer focus groups to gather and validate the requirements. Let me give you a pro tip now. This is a pro tip, right? Trying using brain writing in these sessions to get the most out of the available tip. So you should also arm yourself with a lot of stick notes, right? You should also, they are incredibly useful for nothing, okay? For noting down into things that should be in your project plan. You can use them to help structure your plan by writing down, usually the key headings, and then moving them around the required until you have a flow that just looks like the plan. So you will finally need to have an online project management system where you can store your plan, right? So you know that when you have stored your plan online, you can easily access it and you can't easily lose it. So that is actually necessary. Are there any elements of a project plan? Right. We have any elements of a project plan. So a lot of project planning is talking to your team, getting the views of the people who will be affected by the project and working out how it all hangs to them. And there are a lot of charts and a lot of thinking time usually. So the end result thereof is a document that is called a project plan. Now, when you look at a guide to the Project Management Board of Knowledge, let's say the 5th edition, it says that the project plan is made up of a lot of subsidiary plans. Let's look at the elements of the project plan. Right. So a plan for managing the human resource on the team, both in the terms of availability and skill, is needed. A plan for managing the costs and the budgeting elements on the project, including any procurement, supply engagement you might have, that should be there. There should be a plan also on the communication plan. That is setting out who is going to receive messages from the project, when and in what format. That is very necessary. All those things are done right at the beginning before you can start the project. So a plan for dealing with project risks includes the process for lodging and tracking risks. So a quality plan does specify the quality targets for the project. Usually that's a lot of documentation really that is needed. So in reality, it's actually rare that you will produce these as individual documents because you'll need to compile them together. So what you need is actually a project plan that talks about the important elements of each of these. So that at no point, there is actually no point where you can create a big document that sets out exactly how your business works anyway, right? Because if you already have a structured risk management process, then you don't waste the time writing it all down again in your project plan. So that is what usually happens. So your project plan needs to include enough information. That is to make sure that you know exactly what processes, what procedures need to be followed and who needs to be involved. So when you get your project plan approved by your, let's say, your stakeholders and the project sponsors, okay, you can also get approval from the team themselves. So there are no surprises later because people were informed at hand. How do you now create a project plan? How do you create a project plan? All right. You need to spend really a lot of time with your team. Number one, you clarify what you need to achieve together. That is called a vision. Then you can be working out the processes you need to get there. That's a mission, and you can develop an action plan for how you are going to take this forward. That's called a strategy. Okay. So ultimately, the project manager is responsible for producing the project plan. And while you can't make up all the content yourself as a project manager, you will be the one actually banging the keys to type it all out. So you can just do that by using the templates, right? You can use the templates. They are usually available there and save time by using the templates. How can you now manage your plan, right? How do you manage the plan? So the project plan is not a document written in stone, right? You should be referring back to it and making changes to it as often as you need. Yeah. Usually part of it, like your project schedule, will change almost daily, you know. And the other parts, like let's say procurement plans and cost management processes, won't change at all during the life of your project. So you just have to look at all that. So the important thing to remember is that if your plan isn't working for you, think about what you can do to change it. It's not really fixed. You can change it if it is not working out, right? So it's there to guide your project management, okay? Not to restrict you from doing the right thing, no. It's just there to guide. So if you see that it's not working, you can stop it. Now, if you need to review how you manage project resources, then you go back and review it. So make the changes you need, get the document approved again, and share it with the team again and again. Now, there are some times where you have to plan, but you don't have all the answers, right? You may not have all the answers as a project manager, okay? Most of the time, this is what usually happens. It's rare to have all the information at the beginning of the project. So because of this, you might find that most managers just want to dive into the project and get started, but you might not have the luxury of knowing all the details, but that is okay anyways. We have some techniques that can be used to help you the uncertainty, and the one of them is number one, to assume. Okay, that's called the project assumption. You can use these caveats. Number one, you assume that the resources will be available. You can assume that the required funding is available. You can still assume that the colors required that will be in line with the company brand, and that marketing sign off is not required. Those are just assumptions that we are putting because you don't have all the required information. So you can use assumptions. Okay. So now, how to plan when you don't have all the information? Okay. If the design team come back at they want, let's say, want the product to be a totally new product, then you can actually make the changes. Okay. Ensure that you get your plan approved and approved. The process of planning would be looking at number one, the scope of planning. That's specifying the in-scope requirements for the project to facilitate and creating the work breakdown structure. But you can prepare the work breakdown structure. That's where you spell out the breakdown of the project into tasks and subtasks. And the third step is where you schedule the development. That's project schedule development. This is where you list the entire schedule of the activities and of implementation. The resources that you're going to get, and you can still budget. This is where you specify the budget cost to be incurred actually by the completion of the project. There should be the procurement plan as well. That is there to focus on the vendors outside your company and the subcontractor, right? Risk management, okay, it's also part of the process. Actually, the seventh one. This is where you plan for the possible risks and considering optional contingency plans and mitigation strategies. The quality planning, number 8, this is where you assess the quality criteria to be used for the project. And last, number 9 is where you communicate the plan, that's communication plan. This is where you design the communication strategy with all the project stakeholders. How are you going to be communicating? Is there any question? Okay, if there is no question, then we can just end here.